you just have to be careful about these things and the way we talk about them and realize about certain things.
We have to clear this with DNC. With Democratic National Committee, we have to clear which message we're going to be targeting at each event.
In the end, it was the candidate, Hillary Clinton, the future president of the United States, who wanted ducks on the ground. So by God, we will give ducks on the ground.
So it's, wow.
Don't repeat that statement. Don't repeat that statement.
I think this duck is going to get roughed up somewhere.
I almost got punched on Monday morning. I mean, I was in a duck costume.
If the future president of the United States wants ducks on the ground, we will put ducks on the ground.
This is part 3 of our undercover investigation into the dark, backroom dealings of the Hillary Clinton campaign. In this story, we'll show an illegal dark money conspiracy between the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, and the non-for-profit corporation Americans United for Change. And it's all disguised as a duck.
So I'm basically Deputy Rapid Response Director for the DNC for all things Trump on the ground. Nobody's really supposed to know about me.
You know, Brad and Bob and Lux and myself are all part of the old school method where it doesn't matter what the freaking legal and ethics people say. We need to win this motherfucker.
So Bob is really good friends with him and talked to him this afternoon. And they are all in. If we can get 25 grand, they're all in.
It was earlier this year when people in Donald Duck costumes started showing up at Trump events across the country. It turns out the duck was Hillary's idea.
Tomorrow we start this initiative on the tax returns.
Right.
So, tomorrow morning at Trump Tower, I hope we can arrange it so it goes down the escalator. We will launch Donald Ducks. A guy in a Donald Duck costume with a sign that says Donald Duck's releasing his tax returns.
Robert Creamer runs Democracy Partners. It's a political consulting company based in Washington, D.C. with deep ties to Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Committee, and Obama's White House. In fact, White House logs document that Creamer visited the White House 342 times and met directly with Obama 47 times.
In the end, that is adaptable to Donald Duck's debates, Donald Duck's whatever else he does. But we're going to have this mental. We're going to have Donald Ducks. And the real problem turns out that it's not easy to find Donald Duck costumes for adults, as you might imagine. 5-year-olds, plenty of them. But the other ones are mascots.
We did Donald Ducks in May.
Brad Woodhouse is president of Americans United for Change. After our first video, Woodhouse fired Scott Fovel, his national field director.
We put out a whole blast and a release around the idea that he was, using his name. Right. That we was on taxes at that point because this thing's come up repeatedly, and we see the key here is to have the visual and to have the costume and have the signs. We got so much shit for that blast that reporters thought it was silly and I do think they're probably still being shot. The reporters probably still think it's silly. But you know what? We ain't talking to reporters.
They're covering it.
We're talking to voters.
Actually, the response to the reporters this morning was they loved it.
Originally, we were going to do a project. We were going to do Uncle Sam. I want you to give us your tax returns. I agree it's not as good.
Been done, yeah.
I agree it's not as good. It's much easier to execute. The guy who had done this other Chicken George thing had this other idea, and in the end, it was the candidate, Hillary Clinton, the future president of the United States, who wanted ducks on the ground. So by God, we will give ducks on the ground. And,
so it's. Wow.
Don't repeat that statement.
Okay.
And it is a clever, it's a better idea.
Originally, this guy Sklar, who was did Chicken George in 1992, came to Lux and I with the idea of Donald Ducks. And I ran it up the flagpole in New York in person. And then they came up, they just said, we'd rather do, what do you call it, Uncle Sam. I want you to release your tax returns. And God loves Uncle Sam suits are easy to find for adults. But then I get a call, actually, on the plane about to go to London last week. Christina Reynolds calls and says, I've got good news and bad news. Good news is the candidate would like to have a mascot following around the duck. Following around the candidate, Trump. But the bad news is she wants it to be Donald Duck. And that's because Sklar is an old Clinton hand. And he had gone to some buddy of his who's one of her body people, and she had explained the idea to Hillary, and Hillary just loved it.
Okay, let me tell you something. I think she has the right instinct here. Totally. This thing is working, right? It's resonating, but that story is not exactly what you want to hear about how presidential decision making happens.
So my answer to Christina was, if the future president of the United States wants ducks on the ground, we will put ducks on the ground.
Hillary Clinton and the DNC wanted the Donald Ducks at Trump and Pence events. The direct involvement of the campaign and the Democratic National Committee with Americans United for Change and Donald Ducks smacks of illegal, coordinated campaign expenditures. Federal campaign law experts have told us, quote, the ducks on the ground are likely public communications for purposes of the law. It's political activity opposing Trump, paid for by Americans United for Change funds, but controlled by Clinton and her campaign, unquote. Representatives of Hillary's campaign were on daily conference calls we witnessed with Kramer, AUFC managers and their operatives. They were talking about where to send the ducks and the ducks message. And not just the campaign. Donna Brazil's Democratic National Committee was in on it as well.
So the operation is to insert and get the duck message in there, if we can, or the extremist message, depending on, we have to clear this with DNC. With Democratic National Committee, we have to clear which message we're going to be targeting at each event. But they can insert into multiple events through the end of the election. On a continual basis, on a daily basis. They'll basically do a chase all the way across the country. Now, the duck stuff, we got him waving at it. For the aggressive bird dogging, I want to make sure I stay on track here. For the aggressive bird dogging, we want to do from the line before the events, where we're plastering the outside with the Trump duck message, and then going into the events, everybody has their phones. We insert like 20 people, 20 to 30 people into the events, where they all have their phones set to go off at the exact same time on an alarm with the duck call on the inside of the events all at once from all over the event.
So they'll catch like the incident going down, or? So
we want the media to notice the duck calls, right? So we have everybody load a ringtone on their phone that at all times go off at the exact same time.
We just ordered 1,000 rubber duckies with Donald Ducks written on them to hand out to people in the press.
That's a cool idea. That is a cool idea.
We got to order a bunch of Donald Duck hats so we can put people behind them at various events, where they speak. You get the drift? I'm trying to we'll probably set up a mini website.
Right?
It's got to be Donald Ducks.
It's got to look like Donald Duck.
Like Donald.
Do they license the suits and put
so that's why it's expensive to buy or rent them, because they're licensed.
You're not going to run into a Disney problem, right? With a copyright issue? Or,
let them sue us, please, God.
Oh my God, that is awesome, right? Because you're going to get...
I doubt that they will, because, we're paying to rent or buy the suits. That's where they get their license fee. We're not using it for commercial purposes.
And the DNC didn't just help place Donald Duck at protests, they were in charge of it.
Yeah. The whole duck thing, that came about, the reason we moved it from DNC to AUFC was to just do a hopscotch, but the actual idea was hatched way back in May.
So our journalist asked Kramer why there was a problem with the DNC taking credit for the duck.
The duck has to be an Americans United for Change entity. This had to do only with some problem between Donna Brazil and ABC, which is owned by Disney. because they were worried about our trademark issue. That's why.
Oh, okay.
It's really silly. Oh, yeah, because they go to New York. New York doesn't care about any of that shit. I mean,
Okay. So it's just like a trademark issue with.
They said, yeah, we originally launched this duck because Hillary Clinton wants that duck. In any case, so she really wanted this duck figure out there doing this stuff, so that was fine. So we put all these ducks out there and got a lot of coverage. And, you know, duck, they truck taxes. And then ABC, they say, Disney went crazy because they thought our original slogan was Donald ducks his tax paying, you know, releasing his tax returns. They said it was a trademark. It's not. But anyway, Donna Brazil had, you know, had a kind of a connection with it. She wanted to get sued, you know, so on. So we switched the ownership of the duck to Americans United for Change, which, and now our signs say Trump ducks releasing his tax returns, and we had any more trouble.
On August the 18th, the Wall Street Journal wrote that Donald Ducks was the creation of the Democratic National Committee. Then on September 8th, the Journal reported that the DNC cut ties with the duck. Quote, the DNC is no longer associated with the duck. Americans United for Change is now managing the duck, a consultant for the liberal activist group told the Wall Street Journal, unquote. But behind the scenes, the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign was still running the show, breaking federal campaign coordination laws.
Kind of divvy up responsibility, so sometimes it'll be like campaign owned, so like sometimes you'll see like that they advise something or they're taking credit for things, so like we're not taking credit for the duck anymore. That's like random ally groups, but it's still something that we're involved in. But
why aren't you taking credit?
Just because there were issues, there were like, it's a whole long story. Ask Bob about it.
Intro party politics.
But
okay.
No, it wasn't party politics, but we just have to be careful about these things, and like we talk about them, and we know about certain things. But you guys are, I trust it. It'll all be fine.
Creamer and Fovel even expected there to be violence following the duck, and it sounded like they wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
Have you?
Plastic duck.
You're gonna have these ducks at some of his rallies, right?
Sure. Every rally.
Yeah. So are you
not people with them to provide
protection? Provide protection. Because I gotta tell you, I think this duck is gonna get roughed up somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
Someone's gonna rip his costume off. It's, you know.
It may happen at the Iowa State Fair this week.
Yeah.
Because Pence is there and the duck is planning to follow him around.
It's about intent.
Not the duck itself.
No.
Okay. Because that's the only.
It's not a reaction to the duck call
and
the signs.
Okay.
Because once they pull out these signs, Trump supporters literally start throwing punches.
I almost got punched on Monday morning. I mean,
Did ya?
I was in a duck costume.
Fovel didn't get punched, but last week he got fired. Robert Creamer resigned from Clinton campaign activities. It was after Watergate that Congress passed the Campaign Coordination Law. To prove a violation, 3 prongs are required: payment by someone else other than the candidate for election activity, conduct, a campaign being materially involved in shaping communications by third-party groups, and content, running electoral advocacy close to an election. The payment is complicated, but just the fact that Fovel, a paid employee of Americans United for Change, was the duck at some events constitutes payment by AUFC. Conduct, based on their own admission, the campaign, Creamer, their agent, and AUFC coordinated the duck activities. And finally, content. Donald Ducks is undeniably political content directed against one candidate for the sole purpose of helping another. The connection between Creamer, President Obama, and Hillary Clinton is undeniable, as are the campaign law violations. If it looks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. They broke the law. Last week, Hillary denied her connection to Creamer and AUFC. America, it's time you demand she tell the truth. And stay tuned, because there's more to come.